Hello YouTube, and welcome to another edition to my Get Real series. Today, I will address a subscriber who I think moral sensibilities were offended due to her interpretation of my content. Let's be clear, this video is not an effort to persuade you or anyone else, but to continue an energetic conversation that I hope will benefit all who is involved. As I stated in my video entitled Bossy, Beotches in the Marketplace, Not Another Feminist Flogging, I do not take responsibility for another's reaction to my commentary. As before, I will not engage in self-censoring. Today's episode will not be scripted or edited. Share your dissent, I do encourage you to do so, or comment as you see fit. Though I found this to be a rhetorical question, I will reply. Apparently, I am not capable of speaking for another. This said, I have witnessed men who have had issue with powerful women communicating. This may be due to indoctrination, false belief constructs, resentful disposition, etc., for the sake of maintaining an unbroken completeness. As it regards our communication, I will respond to the second part. There is no need to walk on eggshells when addressing women, young ladies, or girls. Legitimate scrutiny can and should not be equated to inappropriate behavior. I am not sure how many of my videos you have viewed, so I will say this. What this comes down to is free speech and courteous regard. When dealing with the status quo, it is always difficult to challenge cultural values and power dynamics. More specifically, as it relates to power dynamics, I am speaking of forces that can account for the subordination of those within the female gender. However, as it applies to Mrs. Sandberg, we are not merely addressing a battling of powers that be. She is among the contributors of the powers that be. Indeed, the concrete activity which beckons our engagement can shape what we know and can contribute to how one behaves. Knowing this, despite the gender, it would be irresponsible to not penetrate the meat of the situation. Also, for the record, I find the logical implication disturbing. I do not know if you deliberately or inadvertently was geared to mislead. However, your bias is showing. There is no need to use an all-inclusive statement or employ a cognitive distortion. Here, you are making a negative interpretation, even though there are no definite facts which convincingly support your conclusions. Now your question, quote, you would now want an adult calling a child worthless. Why would you not have the same feelings for calling the child bossy, end quote. I believe you meant to say you would not want an adult calling a child worthless. So I'm going to go with that. This appears to be nothing more than a ploy. 1. You are attempting to establish a false equivalent. 2. This is an attempt to separate the reason for adopting a belief from its truth value. Both words can be used in attempts to impede one's growth. However, calling a child worthless is to claim that a child lacks in usefulness. Using the word bossy can be an accurate description of a person's behavior. It is not necessarily spitefully sarcastic or indicates lack of respect, but addresses a manner of acting or one's ability or unwillingness to control themselves. Yes, even a child may attempt to exercise unwarranted power. The following question, quote, "You are supportive of an effort to get improved child care for women who need it, but have no thought for the people who are too young or not in need of this kind of support. Is the main activity of women to birth and raise children," end quote. Well, if we remove the free creation of your embellishment, you would have to concede, as it relates to my video content, that I never made direct claim or implied that I have no thought for young people or those who are not in need of this support. Maybe you meant to say something different? Do note, my reference to affordable child care, whether needed or not, was for the purpose of illuminating how time could be better spent on issues that impact families and, more specifically, women. You end by asking, quote, "Is the main activity of women to birth and raise children," end quote. What is up with your stereotypical emphasis? Please listen closely. A woman is limited by the range she establishes for herself. This is assuming no external forces are repressing her. Some women may desire to have this as their main activity, to use your language. Are you suggesting that a life path traveled in a conventional way cannot be desired? A quick side note. I do not see women as solely being defined by their biology. You may think the default position of men is to organize their worldview via tradition. Well, this is not my position. There are more possibilities to be explored outside of pregnancy, childbirth, lactation, etc. You end things by stating, let's stop here. How interesting that you are willing to immediately estrange every member of the men's rights movement. That aside, you can retire your insistence on using cognitive distortions. It's okay. Your negative emotions and the reproductive body of its seed does not necessarily reflect the way things are. Do you really think that I am going to allow lies, distortions, or mischaracterizations to go undisputed? What you call critical thinking as it resorts to this campaign, I call ridiculous. It is so disheartening how people abuse language for their benefit. Indeed, there may be skillful synthesizing and conceptualizing. However, the effort to analyze must have been retired. No? Nevertheless, Sheryl Sandberg's use of belief and actions is bogus. How can one take her seriously when her target is fruit and not the extraction of the root or even the removal of a main branch? She is hoping to capitalize off of America's obsession with political correctness. This is clear. Sorry, but she and her posse do not have the right to impose personal and political values on others. Indeed, the things that make you go, Yes, I have been made privy to the various insidious exploits of mankind. You know, those that seek the oppression and repression of others. Daily, all kinds of sordid activities are justified. I am curious, this fundamentalist movement you mention, would it only be composed of men? Surely you are not of the mindset that women can do no wrong, that the world's problems would be tackled if women were in power. Well, do remember, Margaret Thatcher and her resistance to the miners' union. In 1984, she sent 8,000 British policemen to fight more than 10,000 British miners on strike. These were men who opposed the Thatcher's government decision to close the mines. Yeah, how did that work? Should I mention Condoleezza Rice and her ties to the Council of Foreign Relations? Hillary Clinton and the Benghazi attacks? Or Sarah Palin, a woman who has no shame, campaigning for the hearts of women via appropriating the speech of feminists? Even I, a man, a non-feminist, can see through her antics. Yet she supports a party that repeatedly votes against women's rights. And there are people within the feminist movement that call themselves feminists who support her. Because they have closer ties to the conservative view of the world versus their allegiance to the progression of women. So yes, I know of some who prescribe to such opportunism. You know, the Ban Bossy campaign, let it come forth. A distraction and potentially another wedge issue, just what America needs. However, it will provide opportunity for discourse. Much attention should, absolutely positively should, go to the rich that use private pressure groups dressed as a campaign to employ censorship, or at least to attempt to employ it. Please, let's not dispose of all common sense. We do not need to watch it go out the window. It would be refreshing if American society is not deeply ambivalent, but sure in its footing to expel this attack. Yes, an attack clothed in innocence. We need more attention on matters that potentially affect us all, like Fukushima, international corporate interest, the abomination that is the DSM-5, etc. There will always be those that think a woman is not as good as a man. Those who value integrity will combat this, but not at the expense of another American's rights. Thank you for your time. I truly appreciate the opportunity to address you. And thank you, YouTube, for listening in on our conversation. I look forward to additional contributions. I may not be able to do follow-up videos in reply, but I will continue the conversation and I will continue to keep my mind actively engaged so that I may learn from you. Be well.